Now, we've all seen movies or videos that make us question if what we're seeing is actually real or if it's all just an act. First movies that come to mind for me are The Blair Witch Project and Snow on the Bluff. Snow on the Bluff had me full on convinced it was real. And today we're going to be talking about a YouTube video that basically gives out that same eerie feeling of not knowing whether we're watching real footage or something that's all just an act for the video. Now, if stuff like this interests you, make sure you subscribe, leave a like. Appreciate it, you feel me? We're trying to grow. So now the video in question is No Through Road. Technically it's 4 episodes, so we're gonna go over each one. The first video begins with a message stating that 4 17-year-old teens who went missing on December 15th in 2008 were found dead inside Broomhall Farm on December 18th. Now, Broomhall Farm was thought to have remained uninhabited for years, but police actually found evidence inside the farm that was showing otherwise, okay? The victims were found in their car, and along with the bodies, a camcorder was also discovered that belonged to one of the boys. And this is the footage from that camera, released with consent from the families in order to aid in the police's investigation. Now, the footage begins with the owner of the camera, whose name is Steven, so that'll come up. And he's starting to record a drive back home with his friends, super innocent. Basically, Steven jokes around and talks with his friends, and all of his interactions are recorded by this camcorder. And then we suddenly get the first of many glitches. This one is showing Steven strumming a guitar just in his room. Alright, randomly pops up. Now, Steven and the other people in the car continue joking around and recording things with the camera. Steven basically points the camera outside the windshield, giving a full view so you can see where they're going and where they're heading. And then basically, the car comes in front of this weird tunnel, okay? And a sign reads on the tunnel, Broomhall Farm, private road. And beneath that, a sign states, No Through Road, which is the British equivalent of a dead end, basically. I've seen these signs in America too. I had no clue that's what it meant, but I could assume that, Steven says that he saw the name Broomhall Farm on the news, but he can't remember what the news actually was. The driver named Ollie basically seems to want to go down this tunnel, but after Steven objects, they decide to let it be and just continue on back home. Alright, so Ollie's the adventurous one. After more driving, they encounter a fork in the road with signs leading to Bennington and Watton, neither of which the teens have actually heard of, but they take the Bennington path nonetheless and end up being more lost than they were before. Now, after some more driving and still not knowing where they are, Ollie pulls over and the group recognizes how lost they actually are. It's been over an hour of driving. A GPS owned by James, one of the teens, has basically stopped working, as well as all their phones have no service. And while out of the car, the group finds a perfectly preserved dead rabbit. While the rest of the group gets back in the car, Steven gets out to see if there's any sign of life down the road, and basically he sees something in the distance before running back to the car. You don't really know what it is. He's screaming at Ollie to start driving. After this happens, the footage glitches again to footage of Steven and a friend playing with a funhouse mirror-like setting on the camera, basically, so it's getting a little weird now. Now, while the group continues driving, Steven explains that he had just seen a masked man in the distance. Ollie remarks that every corner of the road feels the exact same. Now, soon after he says this, they come across the same exact Bennington-Watton signs as before, even though they haven't made any turns along this road. They're basically just following a straight path. And after realizing this, the group pulls over. They begin arguing about how they could have come across the same exact sign twice, and an argument ends basically with the friends turning the camera off. Okay, so we don't even know what happens right now. Now, throughout 2011 and 2012, 3 videos have surfaced on YouTube. Up next is No Through Road 2, which is the second video in the series. The description of the second episode states, this footage is from the first 2 tapes procured by the police following the event code named NTR2. I can only hope that they do not catch me before I obtain the second tape. This video begins with the boys driving to drop off flowers at what is supposed to be like a gravesite sort of thing. At least that's what it seems like. They're talking about the events that happened in the first video, and they end up getting back in the car and driving what seems like endlessly, having random conversations, talking about time travel. They're talking about Doctor Who, and basically they're just trying to decide which direction, see if they could go back, and they end up looping back around. Again, they're kind of having conversations about like, dude, we need to get out of here. Now, this video is only 5 minutes long, so it's really short. I'm just giving you the gist. You can watch it yourself. Like I said, I'm going to link it below. Alright, so while they're having these conversations, they end up getting lost again, and they see the Bennington Welland sign again. So they decide to just pick a direction and drive straight through it to see if it would loop back to the sign again, or if they could finally find a way out there. they again end up seeing the sign after driving, which freaks them out. So they finally get out of the car. No Wi-Fi, no cell signal, nothing is working. All right, so they finally hop back in the car once again, and somebody slams on the window. Ah, shit! Then camera cuts. We pick back up to James and Dave finding their friend beat up and bloody, okay? But he is awake, and the only thing he remembers is going into the tunnel, then waking up. The tape ends with their boys confronting basically their friend, insisting that they're gonna get out of there, okay? So the two guys, they're basically insisting like, bro, we're gonna get out of here. We'll be good, don't worry. And yeah, tape cuts out again. Up next is the third episode in the series, whatever you want to call it. And the description for this video reads, "This is the beginning of the damaged tape. I'm trying to retrieve the rest." Now, this tape starts off stating that this was the tape found inside the camera and that a lot of the footage has actually been retrieved, but there is still some visual tearing and audio distortion, which they're not lying. This is also the shortest out of the 3 videos so far. It's only 2 minutes and 35 seconds long. It's got tons of visual tearing from the start of this tape. It again starts off with the boys driving. When it seems like they finally have self-service, they basically stop. One of the boys gets a call, but it turns out to be a random number who didn't say anything, okay? But they end up taking a right where they normally would have been driving straight, and nothing changes until a random person in a mask, the one that Steven said that he had seen before, basically is just standing in the middle of the road. All right, so they finally see him. Now, like I said, this guy appears in the middle of the road. He's dressed in dark jeans, a black trench coat, and he has this pure white mask on. And then the boys decide to just drive right into him. Okay, I agree with that idea, but right before they hit him, the loop happens again. The man disappears. The boys basically seem to just go straight through the tunnel again, crashes, and the tape cuts out with them crashing. So I don't know. It's not a very good one, you know? Now, even with that video, the third entry being the shortest, I think it's like possibly the most intense one besides this last one that we're about to talk about. But the third one, it's just so short. It's all the bugs, the glitching happening in the video. It's everything. And then when you finally see him and you see them make their decision, which, like I said, I agree with. I mean, some random dude showing up in the middle of the night, bro. At this point, I feel like he's stalking us. And he's in the middle of the road with a mask on, bro, looking like he's up to no good. You feel me? I'm definitely gonna hit him with my car. Like, no bullshit. I'm gonna slam him straight up. No diddy. All right? Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, the car crash at the end when you just, like, basically another glitch happens and they just slam the car. They go right through. They end up in a wreck, and then video just cuts out. And basically it's going to pick up where we're about to talk about right now. But I do like the third part. The first one is kind of the introduction. Second one is kind of nothing besides the very end where we find his friend. And third one, pretty good so far, you know what I mean? Now we're about to end off with the fourth, and this is the final part coming up. The description for this one reads, "I don't know what to think anymore." Kind of eerie off the bat. Now the tape begins with text saying this is the remaining footage from the damage tape from the third video. Alright, so it's just a continuation. As the footage begins to play, you can hear that the car is now having trouble starting, although they do end up getting it running again, and the boys are trying to figure out their next steps since crashing. They see what seems to be a house or some sort of building in the distance, and they begin to check it out. Upon entering this house, they see some strange art on the wall, almost some like demonic symbolism kind of thing, like some weird shit. It's a bunch of masks, candles, weird dolls in the room. It's very creepy. As they're leaving the room, they think they hear the guy in the mask, so they begin to hide, and this entire room scene and what follows gives you that uncomfortable feeling that something is about to go horribly wrong, just like horror movies do, you know? They spot the guy near the tunnel by their car, but they can't make out who it is. James ends up running from the boys, and Steven starts to realize that all this has actually already happened, because James has said that the masked man must have known where they were, where basically they were from, where they were hiding from the footage on the camera that the boys are still recording. Now this is where I got fucking confused, bro. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I don't understand how all this correlates back to the endless looping. Like, I don't know. They didn't really do a great job of explaining that, which I don't think they really needed to. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just dumb. If you understand where the fuck the time travel thing came in and how this makes sense, watch the videos yourself and let me know in the comments below, because I am kind of curious about that. Now they finally think that they've gotten away and the man can't see them anymore until he attacks. But the attacker actually turns out to be Steven, and when confronted after the attack, he has this terrifying look on his face, almost like he's not even him anymore. It ends as Steven runs into the bushes, and basically the camera turns to another masked man with a cowboy outfit on, and then the tape just cuts out. Alright, so again, like I was saying, I was just left more and more confused, and nothing would be heard from again until years later in November 2020. Stephen Chamberlain publicly revealed himself as the director, writer, and co-star of No Through Road, with his cast and crew having initially remained uncredited to maintain the illusion of the original 2009 short film and the 2011 to 2012 web series continuation being legitimate found footage, only naming one other cast member as Oliver, who portrays the car driver Ollie and the main star of the film, with characters serving as the fictionalized versions of themselves, which is basically supposed to be like the Blair Witch Project. Chamberlain used it to earn himself a position in the University of Westminster's film program, crediting there as being a pretty clear back path to No Through Road in terms of any success that he does have currently. Which is just crazy, bro. That's what I'm saying. You never know, you know what I mean? You can make some dumb shit today, and a couple years from now, not even the next week, bro, that shit could pop off and you're going lit, bro. You feel me? Chamberlain said he was inspired to make the original film in late 2008 when his friends took a nighttime drive through the Stevenage countryside, being inspired to create the film after the friend group came across a relatively well-known No Through Road outside of Broom Hall Farm, remarking upon its creepiness and suggesting various spur-of-the-moment ideas to his friends, including that sign goes towards Bennington. What if we can't escape it? How would we all react if they passed the sign once, twice, 3 times? And I just press record and we drive past it again, and that's what you'd see in the film. Basically, he's explaining how they came up with the ideas. Improvising most of the film, Chamberlain discussed the lack of structure combined with the fact that none of his friends were actors in any sense of the word is what made the film so believable, describing it as sort of lightning in a bottle because we weren't planning on making it. It has authenticity. And he described the Blair Witch Project as the unavoidable inspirational thing behind No Through Road. Although it's not directly inspired, which I kind of doubt, Chamberlain elaborated on having been played loosely enough with what it was doing that it managed to avoid falling into the trap of an overly structured narrative and comes across as completely and utterly natural. It definitely just reminds me of some shit that you and your boys or you and your friends would just record in the car on some dumb shit, you know what I mean? And then just some crazy stuff ends up happening throughout the night and you end up recording it all, you know what I mean? Remember, cameraman never dies. If anything crazy happens, just pull that phone out, bro. No bullshit, you know what I mean? At least help the person you can help, but then pull that phone out. You feel me? Cameraman never dies. Now, Chamberlain actually played the masked figure as well as himself, wearing a trench coat, cowboy hat, and drama mask, and using a bit of trick editing to allow himself to appear as 2 different characters on screen at the exact same time. He was just editing shit, you know what I mean? Development of the web series, which was the extra 3 episodes, began during Chamberlain's university years, casting another friend, Dave, as himself, operating the camera throughout most of the 3 follow-ups. So Dave is the guy behind the camera in the other 3. And unlike the original film, Chamberlain spent several brainstorming sessions developing a direction for the follow-ups, spending a lot of evenings drinking beer and writing down ideas and going, no, that's too complicated. How can we just make this complicated enough that people might get it and that it would be satisfying, but not answer all the questions. Now, before that, they basically ended up settling on the time loop concept and leading to the rug pull gut drop moment in 4 when you realize that the cars that's turned up is theirs in the past. Alright, and while filming the second installment, Chamberlain elected for a slower pace, still largely improvising, but a lot more restrained and had a slightly different tone to it, which, like I said, that was kind of the most boring one for me. They kind of wanted to see how real they could make it feel, and yeah, man, they kind of did it. They wanted it to still feel authentic and scrappy, while the 4th and 3rd videos were developed together as a unit. The first No Through Road was just one-off dumb shit he just recorded. It ended up getting so big that he basically had to be like, he was like, okay, I kind of like need to expand upon this, you know what I mean? I wasn't going to, obviously, but now it's so popular, I kind of might as well. So that's what he was doing there. So all this he was saying in an interview, basically, when he finally had in 2020, and he concluded that interview by saying, "I'm glad that No Through Road is continuing to scare the crap out of people so many years later. No Through Road leaves us with not a destination, but a haunting realization. Some paths are meant to remain closed, and some mysteries are better left untouched. In the end, it's not about where we go, but what follows us on the journey. Thanks for watching, and remember, not every road leads to safety."